So this is Ray Catterley with Kim Croes and Gene Lotus, where this is our first of several who are going to be interviews and let everyone know about the contributors to the mastermind. So a mastermind contributor is somebody who's gone ahead, they've got their feet wet, they're in this, and then they're doing things, and then they'll come in from time to time and then hang about, answer the questions, and we want you to know who that is. And so we're going to let you get to know Kim Croes this evening, and we'll just go back and forth with a few questions. Everybody's got a different motivation and a different reason why they came in and their own backstory. So Kim, why don't you start out and tell us where you were when you learned about it, how you discovered your first entry into the rabbit hole about learning about Hempcrete, and then how that relates to you, and then we can talk a little bit more about how it relates to you right now.
Okay. Wait, what was the first question?
Your, what's your origin story? If you're a
Oh, the origin
superhero,
story. Got it.
if you're a
Okay.
superhero, what's your origin
I
story?
have to
Yeah.
compartmentalize. Um, yes, my origin story is paint. Yeah. Just comes down to I'm a painter. I sniff a lot of paint and I don't like it. Not by choice. And as a singing background that I've grown up with, I that was my previous profession. My throat and my voice are very important to me, and I'm very like sensitive to what happens. And when I'm breathing in those paint fumes, I can feel my throat is closing up and I get like bloody noses and I get super dry, and my muscles get inflamed from the toxins that I'm breathing in. It's great stuff. And so yeah, I was like, I gotta do something about this because I can't, you know, I don't want to be the Little Mermaid. I gotta have my voice. So, I started Google searching on different paint options, natural options, and then this article popped up about hempcrete. And I was like, what is this? And it just seemed too good to be true. But the more I looked into it, the more I was like, wow, I mean, if this is real, then this totally, my entrepreneurial brain was like, this sounds like something I want to check out. Yeah, and that was like, that was pre-pandemic, but like, it got the ball rolling. I started going, and I think within 6 months, I was taking training with Hemp and flew out to Idaho, did training with them, did, they don't even do training anymore. So I
Right.
think I was like the 11th group or something that had done training with them. And then after that, within probably another 6 months, I went and trained with Cameron for the first time. And um, then I went back again the next year to train with him on the spray, the E-Reezy sprayer. And then after 2 years, I was doing my own jobs.
Nice. Well, I'd like to unpack the transition from training and workshop to actually doing jobs, because that's what everybody's interested about in the mastermind group, is having successful projects. That's the end all summary goal of everything, is people having successful projects. And then I don't know if I'd heard of anybody who had the performing arts motivation behind it all, but from the time when
That's
you
another
were
layer.
yeah, when you were speaking on the panel at South by Southwest last year, and there was the little baby grand piano out where the sing-alongs were taking place, and you were
Oh
playing the
yeah.
piano. I can definitely vouch for, you'd give the Little Mermaid a run for her money, or vice versa. So I think you might have nudged her out a little bit. But I was you're playing, and everybody was just talking, having these boring business conversations, business, 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 and then it's like all of a sudden there's Kim over there playing on the piano. I was like, everybody's like, wow. And so yeah, the paint definitely didn't catch up to you and turn you into the froggy toad for by any stretch of the imagination. But so you were going down this pathway, you discovered something that was a good alternative. You were taking some workshops. You went to the one in Idaho with Hempitecture, then you did a couple with Cameron, and then now you've got a base level of knowledge. And then many of us did the same thing, but now we've got wow, do we take on a project? If we've got the project, how do we have the support and whatnot? And so tell us about that client engagement and discovering that client. And then I'm going to go ahead and mute and let the train pass while you tell about your first client and engaging.
Um, well, I had to take, I have like an entrepreneurial background. I ran my own music studio. I ran two different painting businesses. I've done a lot of like, running businesses. So it wasn't that I was just like had a contractor background and I was going to workshops. I had the entrepreneurial, like, run your own business and what you have to do. So I was immediately reaching out to different events and different people, networking and getting my face and my voice out there at festivals, at, like little, like there would be little hemp, I don't know, farm type events that were going on. And so I had talked with enough people to have somebody come to me and say, hey, I've got this friend who is thinking about doing a hempcrete house. Would you be willing to talk with him? And he had already had lined up somebody from Europe who was he was gonna like pay for them to come in and do the work, but because of complications with COVID or whatever, and just like not knowing if he could get over here, I was like the next best thing. And although I hadn't done a project before, I had somebody that was willing to back me and be there for me in a supportive role, which is Cameron, um, to give my client the, confidence in me to be able to complete the project and do it correctly. So,
Yeah, and Cameron is one of the panelists when we did our initial first 6 months launch. And so now we're bringing in a lot of everyone who has, I know I pestered Cameron quite a bit with questions, and he's just a wealth of knowledge and very supportive, and somebody who's been a resource to the founding of the Mastermind group. And so having that support is one of those things that we're wanting to have be a function of this group, and so all those questions can come together in a forum to where if somebody's got that one little small detail question, they can get it answered, and then we can go to the resources that are there. And so that's one of the things that we want to do as well. And so it's nice to hear about those first projects and having that come in. And now you had also done a background of some renovation on your own as well. You want to tell us a little bit about that? And I don't know if any of those had a consideration for Hempcrete on the renovation side. Is that something that you're looking at, or is it mostly on the new construction side element of your business approach?
So as far as renovations in Hempcrete goes, I've done two of them. My one of my neighbors, learned about what I do and had heard about Hempcrete, and Detroit is a wealth of houses that are just waiting to be, reconstructed from a shell of itself, which is perfect for, hempcrete. So it was, it just kind of like fell into place. And, I walked them through the process. They installed their own hempcrete. I taught them how to do it. And they came and helped me with my reno, which was my bathroom. So I did that first. I had a workshop to show people how to do it. And then I finished the rest of it on my own, with help of one of my employees. And then, my neighbor was like, hey, we're interested in doing our master suite, with this so that, we can have like good soundproofing and, all the good qualities. They had a townhome, so their walls are shared with their neighbors, and fire is a very big concern here in Detroit. There's a lot of fire issues. So having that like firewall between units that are connected is like a huge benefit. So those are the two like real life examples that I've used Hempcrete in renovations. And I'm sure there'll be plenty more where that comes from.
And so, on that note, as there was that initial engagement, because I think that's where a lot of people come into this, where they're Kim 5 years ago, and then they're like, okay, how do I become Kim today? That's got clients and a book of business and is building more in a pipeline. And in that early on engagement, uh, I know I asked a lot of questions. I know you were saying you asked a lot of questions, and then now we're putting ourselves out there to where people are calling us to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the different questions that come around that are very common to you? Maybe pick a handful or just a few that are the ones that you see the most. Now you've got clients with different motivations, whether it's sound, whether it's fire, whether it's health. What are some of the questions that you either see people ask a lot or don't see people ask a lot and wish they did?
Well, I don't have as much of a, I guess, connection anymore with as many people pulling in to, talk to me. I feel like they have, they gravitate towards people who are maybe, more frequented in the industry. But when I am talking to people, they tend to actually have a lot of knowledge about what we're talking about, which is, I know, shocking. So I don't have to go and answer like the basic questions. They're like ahead of the game. Like this client that I'm working with for Ann Arbor for this year, he's been studying it for years. And so he already had an architect. We had a meeting with the architect, and it came down to questions about what our value are we getting from this product? What can we expect with that? What's the best method? What would you recommend for my type of build? Like I guess that would be like probably between the two clients that I've been talking to, um, it would be about the technique and not about like specs or like specifics about the material itself, because they've already gotten juiced up on it and they're like ready to go. But they don't quite understand, they have this vision in their head and they don't know how to make it happen. So they're like, here, let me give you a picture of this crazy house or crazy building. And how do I do this? And then I'm like, okay, let me just mull on this, because what you have here is not going to quite work. We have to, we have to adjust things to make this really work. So it's kind of like last year where I had the tire house project. you
Hmm.
know it's just like, people have the craziest ideas, and you just kind of got to reel them in and be like, okay, this is where we can play, and this is like space, we can't touch that.
Yeah, so you were finding some very well-informed customers and clients. It'd be fun to have them on and learn where they got their information and whatnot on their pathway. Because I know as professionals, when we're wanting to recruit clients, it's always we need enough people going down the rabbit hole and coming out the other end wanting what we offer in order to have a viable business. And it's always nice to know what makes them click the button at the first time. I know I watched a lot of business trends and saw the farm bill pass, and we're watching things on real estate and investment, and that was my motivation backstory. And then everybody has their own. And then now, talk about the engagement. Did you get in with them on the design phase on that? Were you collaborating with? Were they doing a self design, or did they have an architect involved?
Which client? Because they're all different. So the last project that we did was They're also different. They didn't have an architect involved because it was a tire house.
Hmm.
So architects don't really know about tire houses. They're kind of
So that
like,
was a unique. Now, was that that was a permitted process,
yeah,
construction? Yeah,
yeah.
and so.
Hmm it's just like straw bale. It's got its own rules and regulations and stuff like that that they have to follow. But they hired Shelly and John, who are the tire house contractors. They run their tire house building business, and so they hired them first as like their kind of like GC
Hmm.
to run to build the house. And then Shelly and John reached out to me and was like, we're trying to make this as eco-friendly as possible, and this is an Airbnb and it's based on green and da 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 da. Can we make it happen? So it was more like a collaboration project, that particular one. The first one, it was a lot less clean. That project, I was brought in way too late in the process. It was a like kit. You
Hmm.
grab, you order the kit online, you bring it in and build it, and then put the walls up and stuff. So there was nothing professionally done in terms of like an architect brought on, to make alterations. Everything had to be done as we were going. It
Were,
was
were
like,
they were they acting as a self build, or did they have a GC involved?
no, no, they were
Yeah.
the homeowner was the GC. So that was the most complicated, job site I could have possibly found myself on. At least with the tire house, the the other parties that were involved had contractor, experience. They
They
knew
knew
what,
the language.
yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's really that is cut and dry the difference between a successful project and a not successful project.
Yeah, and we get a lot of self-build interest coming through the mastermind, and that's one of those things to where there's a lot of people who know a lot, and then just that little bit, even if they are going to self-build, spending, even if they don't go the general contractor route and they're GCing their own project, if they spend the money to have an architect that will consult all the way through the project to where they can be a liaison in that process, and then you hit the nail on the head and just being able to have collaboration about the whole finished product before you start building it. Because once you're halfway into it, you're like, well, sure would have been nice to have done that, and then you didn't think about it, and then so um, and then I guess one of the favorite questions that Gene likes to ask is, what does winning look like for you? Map us out a little bit ahead. You've done this for a little bit. You've had some successes. I know you've had some headaches along the way, and so you've kind of sampled the porridge enough to know what you'd like to come down the road. Map that out. What's the ideal scenario for you?
I mean, this project that I'm moving into is probably about as ideal as I'm going to get. Um, Besides working alongside another hemp creator, me and the Tom from Hempstone
Hmm.
were talking about doing a project together at one point. That fell through, but the idea of working with another professional alongside of that professional to kind of complement each other and make something happen, that would really make, you know when I'm in those sticky situations where I don't know what to do, at least I have somebody to kind of like help me. We can kind of bounce off each other ideas, and I'm not
Very
stuck
important.
crying in a hole going, what do I do, what do I do? Yeah, but having a project where setting myself up so that I'm going to be successful, as opposed to putting myself in a situation again where there's not enough support, not from like other contractors per se, but like if the environment is not prepared right, if the homeowner is doing everything themselves and they've never done construction before, that's not the project for me. I don't want to
Yeah,
do that
yeah.
again. So
So collaborative projects to where there's a nice community of support, to where there's a lot of thinking and planning ahead of time. You know, what's this old saying about proper prior preparation prevents piss poor performance or something like that. And then you can think about these things ahead to where you avoid the mistakes before they happen. And then and so what's your favorite way for people to get a hold of you? I know you're on LinkedIn. Do you have a website people can go to as well, or what's your favorite way for people to reach out and connect with you?
well, I don't ever use LinkedIn, so not LinkedIn. I have LinkedIn, I just never go on it. So don't
And
do
I
that.
live on there. Yeah.
um, Instagram or my email is generally usually how people would get a hold of me. So kim@ecofiberfort.com. That's usually how people reach out to me. Sometimes I get phone calls. That's also chill. That's fine. Um, but those are generally the three ways that people reach out.
And then there's always the community, and what we look forward to is incubating some of these questions as people come into either from the architect's point of view, the general contractor's point of view, the builder, maybe people considering self-builder and they're on the edge, either design or the fulfillment side of the project, to where everybody can come together. And we want everyone to know about you and just the good things that you're doing and the successes that you've had and the knowledge that you have, and just something that would be a good collaborative participant in there. And so now it's been about a year since the South by Southwest panel. Have you seen a lot of growing interest on things and momentum building forward? What are some of your next projects?
So as far as interest, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot more growing interest. I've had a lot more phone calls, emails, people saying they want to build or they want to have retrofit or even like natural plaster their homes. They heard about, me working with plaster. So they're talking about like combining the two or just doing, even like the hemp bat installation. I've had a decent amount of inquiries this year, especially compared to what I've previously had. But I think people are very limited with the high cost of what our industry requires at this point. And so, I've tried to be as flexible as I can with people, but it is difficult. Just with material costs and truck like shipping and everything. So I have like I mentioned, the Ann Arbor project. That is the most viable project that we're working on right now, which is a carriage house, a very large carriage house. So it's got a whole apartment on the second floor, and then the main floor has like a potting room. Of course, the normal garage and like a storage facility area in there. And it's going to have like this huge glass window in the front and very just like very extravagant garage, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy, he's been, dreaming up this project for years and years. So, I am looking forward to working on that project. Um, we've I've talked to a few other clients, but as of now, that is the one that is like moving forward. So,
Nice, nice. Well, Gene, do you have any other questions to put in before we wrap up? I know you've got you're the journalist that usually has a few questions in your hip pocket to throw out.
I want to
I may have stolen it from the what does success look like and
no,
winning and
no.
all that.
I want to know about your background there. I want to know what's going on with your ceiling and what's going on with the walls.
of course, You don't want to know that.
I do. I mean, is Hempcrete involved? It looks like it's plastered, and but is that design? Is that a design on the ceiling, or is that in progress at this point?
No, so I live in a historical home. It was built in 1913, and this is a lime wash finish that I did in the background on the wall here. So it is the original lime plaster walls that I've been slowly, bringing back to good condition. Some of the rooms are in really, really bad shape. I can kind of show you the other side of this.
Oh
Oh,
wow!
wow.
Yeah.
That's some
So
patina.
it's a process. Yeah. That's just the small of the long story of my home. But the ceiling here, this is adhesive. They had like those foam ceiling tiles that they had put, pushed and glued onto the ceiling on top of the plaster, which was perfectly good plaster. So I have no idea why they put these ugly pockmarked, like ceiling tiles that belong in an old 70s basement. But they did. So
I
I'm
thought they were like
MTV is not
bottle.
always kind.
They were like glass bottle, like the kind of thing that you have in a. It looks like from here that it's like
well,
a
good.
perfect design.
Yeah, I'm glad that it looks artistic and cool. It's yes, it's a work in process. So yeah, this was like you can see my kitchen is. I'll just give you a really quick, preview of.
Give us the
So,
MTV crib.
yeah, crib house. Yeah. So this is my kitchen, and so I took the plaster off of this wall, and it's just all the lath. And then I created wood boxes around the windows with some shelving, and so it looks very cool. And then this is the reality. So I've got water damage everywhere, but this wall is cool. So
But just having the
that's what
take
I've
the
got going on. And
yeah,
then,
having the talent and the patience to bring that character out in these old homes, it's something I admire and I don't have. And so yeah, that's exciting to see.
yeah. So this is my bathroom, and this was the room that I hempcreted. And I did it with a workshop, and then I had my neighbors help me. So unfortunately, there's a lot of, you can see a lot of stopping and starting process going on because we had limited amount of time. So you've got a lot of cracks, and that huge crack you see is like a year difference from the workshop that I did, the initial workshop, and then adding hempcrete on top of it. So I don't recommend that to people.
Repair. Isn't it pretty easy to repair?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I don't know if you can see, I started filling the crack. So you just have to like pull out all of the loose, dry, crumbly stuff. So like right here, for example, see how that's just falling out. So any of that needs to get pulled out. And then I would just make a new mix and stuff it into the hole. And,
Yeah.
it holds pretty well. So, and then once you plaster over it, which is what I'm going to do a lime, brown coat or scratch coat, brown coat. And then I'm going to do a finish coat of clay plaster over top of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for jumping on right quick.
Thanks for inviting me, guys.
All right. Bye now.
Talk to you soon.